Hi, hope you're all doing well. In this video I'm going to be ranking 24 different back exercises based on their muscle building effectiveness. Now this is just my opinion, so I'm sure you'll disagree with many of these, and that's fine. Let me know in the comments section where you stand on this tier list. So we'll get straight into it. Made a bit of a pig's here with the pictures here. You can't actually delete any, so bear with me on that. Alright, first exercise, behind the neck pull down. I'm going to put that as an A. I'm going to go through these fairly fast, not going to spend too much time explaining why I've put a certain exercise on a tier list, but for me the lat pull down behind the neck is just a slightly better version of a regular pull down because you're more upright, tends to hit the lats a little bit better. Both are good, but I would veer more towards the behind the neck pull down. Really underused exercise. Hyperextensions, back extensions, going to put that as a D, and we'll go with the inverted row also to be a D. The reason for that is that it's very difficult to progressively overload the exercise. Where do you go if you can do 15 reps with good form? Well, you could do one arm, I guess, but it's going to be much easier to do like a chest supported row where you've got, various increments of weight that you can use. So any body weight exercise as a bodybuilder, I just don't think will ever be that high. You can't load it with a belt either like you could do on the chin-ups. It's just not practical. Okay, we'll go with Pendlay row. I'm going to put that as a C. I think it's a really good exercise, but I'm not too keen on the stop-start nature of reps. I think back training is more towards exercises where you can keep the weight moving, keep the tension on the lats continuously. Really good exercise, but I think other forms of row would be more effective. Okay, deadlift. I'm going to put that as B. Obviously a really good exercise, very, very important, especially initially, but there comes a point when I think the law of diminishing returns comes into play, and the difficult recovery ability of the exercise, the debilitating effect it has on the body outweighs the positive stimulation that you can garner from this exercise. You really have to, weigh it up. It takes a long time to set up. It takes a long time to recover from. Is it really worth it? And you've got to question the effectiveness of the upper back stimulation compared to other exercises. Compare this to, let's say, a rack deadlift, where the rack deadlift picture here, I would put that slightly higher. Let's go with B, but I would probably say I would favour that very, very slightly. The reason being is that, let's say your 5 rep max is 200k on the deadlift, and your 5 rep max on the rack deadlifts is 250, and the upper portion of the movement tends to favour more of the back rather than the glutes and lower back and quads, like the bottom portion of the movement would focus on. So you're lifting more weight for the same reps in an area that focuses more of the attention on the lats, traps, rear delts and what have you. So I would put that slightly above, but I still don't think it's enough to be an A. And there would be an argument maybe for a deadlift being lower. So chest supported row, really, really good exercise. I'm going to put that as an A. Chin-ups, weighted chin-ups, one of my favourite exercises, but I'm just going to put that as a C though. And again, the same reasons as the Pendlay, the stop-start fashion of the movement, it doesn't lend itself too well to back training, in my opinion. And also a problem that constantly crops up in myself, and I've trained clients that this has happened to as well. It just seems very likely that you'll get some elbow inflammation when you're using a close grip. Golfer's elbow tends to be fairly common, and of course you can work around that. You can make sure you're doing the proper recovery work, but it just seems very common. So I would have to put that lower as a consequence. Old school row, we're going to go with A. Classic row, so Arnold Schwarzenegger's using a platform to elevate his body here so you can get a fuller range of motion. You can do this with a wide grip or a narrow grip. There are pictures of him online doing 3 plates with a narrow grip. One of my favourites, a real classic. Dumbbell shrugs, I'm going to go with D here. Just don't think it's that worthwhile spending too long training your traps as a natural bodybuilder. You're better off focusing on your shoulders. than worrying about building thick slabs of muscle on your trap. Especially if you're doing other exercises like your deadlifts or rows, then they're going to take care of the traps really. I just don't think it's worthwhile for a natural to spend too long training traps. And the same goes for barbell shrugs. If I could put that lower, I would, because I just don't think it's a particularly comfortable exercise. It always feels like I'm kind of, you can do it in front or back, I should say. This picture's behind the buttocks, but you can do them in the front. Just feel awkward. The front especially feels like you have to lean forward maybe like an inch to get that bar away from the groin area, so you're not like smashing it into your body, and it's just not comfortable. It feels awkward on the lower back, and I just don't think the payoff is that good for a natural bodybuilder. All right, we'll go with 45-degree row. One of the best, I think. Really, really good exercise. Machines tend to be set up fairly well from what I've tried, and you can really focus on the lats because you can push that chest into the bench as you pull down. So I think it's a good exercise. Dumbbell row, we'll go with A. I mean, it's really difficult because there's so many good back exercises, and you can place certain emphasis on certain areas of your back by tweaking the form slightly with a lot of these exercises. But I think dumbbell row is a real good one. We'll go with good mornings next. That's going to be a D, and again for the same reasons as the back extensions. Just don't think it's worth the time really to focus on lower back movements specifically for bodybuilding when you're already doing other compound movements. Okay, we'll go with the low row. Going to put that as a B. I don't think it's quite as good as a chest supported row. Still a stellar exercise, one that you should include in your routine, here and there for sure, but not quite as good as the chest supported row variations, I think. Okay, we'll go with the Meadows row. We're going to put that as a C. A good exercise, but not as good as a dumbbell row. And also, I have never seen one of these attachments. Unfortunately, in the UK, we don't have anything like that really in the gyms I've used. You've just got to use it with a kind of a palms open grip because the thickness of the end of the bar, and it's not ideal. You're limited in weight that you can use. Just not as good as a dumbbell row. Okay, we'll go for close grip pull down. Really, really good exercise for me personally. There are so many good back exercises. I would have to say this is an A because you're always going to lift the most weight on this position for the pull downs. The range of motion is always the greatest because of your narrower grip, so your lats are always going to get the most stretch. I think it's a really, really underrated exercise, and I love this picture with Mike Mentor with the two spotters. I think it's a good exercise. Regular wide grip lat pull downs, I think, are very, very good. I would place them slightly under the close grip because of the range of motion being slightly smaller, shorter rather, and also it tends to be very easily turned into a horizontal row because you can really easily kind of lean back a little bit. But it's a good exercise, and it'd be very, very close to the close grip pull downs. All right, we'll go with dumbbell pullovers. A really good exercise, but kind of difficult to set up for a lot of people, and to really focus on the lats. I think there are better alternatives. The machine pullover, on the other hand, is by far the best back exercise that I've ever used. I was fortunate enough to train in a gym that had a machine like this that I used for about a year, and my back development exploded. I would always have sore lats. I would always have a great pump, and my back grew like a weed when I was using this machine. It's by far the best back exercise I've ever used. Right, so we'll go with wide grip pull downs now. Really good exercise. Tends to be a little bit awkward on shoulders sometimes. I wouldn't use a grip as excessively wide as this, that's for sure. I'll go with B on this. I still think it's a really good exercise. Seems to be less problematic than the close grip chin in terms of elbow inflammation. All right, we'll go with the seal row. A real good exercise. I'm going to have to put that as a B though. It would be an A, but it's just impractical to set up. Unfortunately, in the UK, we don't have these benches here. I've never seen one. So if you want to do this exercise, you have to raise the bench up with plates, and then more than likely, because you can't get hold of enough plates, you have to raise the bench at an incline. And of course that puts more of the emphasis on the traps and rear delts and less on the lats. If it was easier to set up, I'd put it as an A, very similar to a chest supported row. May even be slightly better actually. T-bar rows, solid exercise. And again, with most of these back movements, you can really emphasize the certain area that you want to work by the angle of the pull. The higher you go, the more traps. The lower you go, it tends to be the more lats, the more lower area of the upper back. So we'll put that as a B, solid movement. Can be maybe a little bit problematic for the lower back. Okay, so there is one more exercise to include here, the Yates row. I'm going to put that above T-bar slightly. I do think it's a really good exercise. I don't think it's quite as good as maybe the old school row. I'll put it maybe between A and B. I definitely think it's better than some of these though. I really enjoy the exercise. I think it's underused, especially with an underhand grip. Really, really good for building a very thick upper back. And you know, the higher you go, the more emphasis you're going to put on the traps and you know, rear delts and stuff. And this is why if you do movements like this, you don't need to be worrying about shrug work particularly, because it's going to take care of that. So that's the list. Very difficult actually, much harder than the leg list. Probably ask me in 6 months and the list will be completely different. It really depends on how I feel about the movement currently. But yeah, that's the list. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. If you did, then please give it a like, thumbs up, and subscribe to see more natural bodybuilding videos. Thanks for watching. Stay strong.